Welcome to Inspiring Working Lives, the Morgan Hunt podcast where we explore public sector leadership journeys. From honest chats about career highs and lows, to lessons and wisdom to inspire the next generation of leaders that will shape our society.
Hello, and welcome to the Morgan Hunt Inspiring Working Lives podcast. Today's guest is Liz Bromley, Chief Executive of Newcastle Colleges Group. NCG is a single group with 7 colleges stretching from Carlisle to Southwark. In a career spanning 30 years, Liz has held senior positions across higher and further education, including roles at the Open University, University of Salford, Goldsmiths and UCLan. Since 2019, Liz has led NCG, and under her leadership, it has become the first college group to be granted indefinite taught degree awarding powers, placing it on a par with traditional universities. The group's contribution to the sector has been exemplified through the development of a leadership hub with more than 500 NCG colleagues going through in a 5-year period. Through this period, Liz has overseen a journey on quality and finance that both required improvement to consistently good provision across the piece. She has consistently linked social mobility with mental health, stressing that student well-being is integral to academic success. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Lovely to see you. Okay, let's go back. Your childhood.
Yes.
Can you tell us about it and let us know if there were any career aspirations building during those formative years?
Okay, so I grew up on a farm in Cheshire. So I was a disappointment from the moment I arrived because farmers don't want girls. And it was, it's a very local environment, little village. So the idea of education as a sort of option wasn't really there. And the notions of success in those days, many years ago, was for the daughter of a farmer to marry the son of a richer farmer with a bigger farm and more fields. That would be a real sign of success. Wow. And that appealed to me zero. So I was quite a bright child. I was buried in books, went to school, went to sixth form, much against the wishes of my parents. And at sixth form, I met some fabulous teachers who really opened my mind to the joys of education. I never had career aspirations because I was never encouraged to have them, just wasn't an option. And consequently, when one of my lovely teachers taught me English, asked me which universities I would be applying to, the answer was, oh, no, I won't be allowed to go to university. Now, this was in the days so long ago when teachers had the wherewithal to actually go to the home, knock on the door and have a doorstep argument with parents about whether or not they were bringing their children up properly. And so that teacher had a very brusque conversation with my mother, which ended up with her saying if she can get into Oxford or Cambridge, she can go, and if she can't, she can't. And his advice was, let's get you into Oxford or Cambridge. How should we do that then? So there's a lot of chatter about Oxbridge being very closed and narrow and doesn't do widening participation very well. Well, 40 years ago it did, because it made me an offer of 2 Bs, which took all the pressure off me because I was a straight A student, and I got a place at Worcester College, Oxford, on the back of whatever that teacher said or did. And so I escaped into education. And it was only really at the end of my time at university that I started to think about how I was going to ever earn some money. And that was really the first time I thought about a career, which isn't very well planned, but, worked out in the end.
Wonderful. So you were just lost in this world of learning and,
Absolutely.
And books and
Absolutely.
English language.
Yes.
Fabulous. Wow. Isn't it brilliant that a teacher took it upon themselves to go completely out of...
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why it's not just the transformative power of education that works, it's the people who work in education, who make... Education's just a thing, but it's the people who bring it to life and create the opportunities for young people or disadvantaged people or older people who are just waking up to it all to actually get on and make successes.
Right. Wow. Yes. That's good. So it doesn't end at 18.
No.
So even old guys like me can study. We heard it's the route to longevity as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, there you
keep
are.
learning.
We'll both live long.
Okay. So you've had this wonderful time at Oxbridge. You've come out of a qualification. And then suddenly you've got to get a job. What did you...
Well, as I say, my planning skills were pretty low. I was much better at verse than planning. So I actually trained as a chartered accountant, which was a really, really stupid move because it was all about words for me, not numbers. And so in the early 1980s, career routes for girls were teaching or nursing, even if you were at a good university, even if you had a good degree. And so I didn't fancy either teaching or nursing, and I ended up as a trainee chartered accountant, which had a sort of happy ending because that was where I met my first husband and abandoned accountancy for marriage and children, and we lived abroad for a while, which was again incredibly eye-opening and mind expanding in terms of seeing other cultures and what have you. And then after that, over a short number of years, I had 4 children, so I was quite busy for quite a while. And then I started to think about a career.
Okay, and where did you travel to during that period of time?
So we lived in Bahrain and Oman, so in the
Right.
Middle East, which was fabulous. And it's with such sadness I see what's going on there now, because in the 80s it was a lovely, welcoming, open place, and people of different cultures lived together very, very well. And it's a shame to see society breaking down like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the children are born.
Yep.
And it's career time.
Yep.
What's the thought process? How did it work?
So any good mother thinks, where can I get a job that's going to be easy on the school holidays and I can get to school pick-up time within 10 minutes and all of those things. So we were living in Buckinghamshire, and 7.5 minutes away from me was the Open University. And the Open University was a large employer, but also it ticked all the criteria for things that a potential working mum might need. And so I joined the Open University, and for the second time in my life, education opened so many doors to me. So I was at the OU for about 12 years, and during that time I think I probably had about 6 different jobs. So that just shows the opportunities that open. And I moved from central sort of exams and assignment handling and what have you to join the Faculty of Health and Social Care. And because I met wonderful people who were always willing to create opportunities and to take chances on people who might have a bit of potential, I had a fabulous career which really set me up for the rest of my life from the Open University.
Wow. I'm really interested in those people who can see something and push or say the right word at the right time.
Yeah.
So how did that work for you?
So the Dean of the Faculty of Health and Social Care, and when I talk about a faculty at the Open University, this was 15,000 students, so the size of a small to medium university. So she was a wonderful lady who I can see so clearly even now. Her name was Professor Linda Jones, and she had me in one day into her office to say, there is a 2-week residential course happening and I think you should go on it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I can't do a 2-week residential course. I've got 4 kids, 2 dogs at home. I can't possibly be away for that sort of time. And she said, well, think about it, because in my view, you are wasted in the job that you're doing. Why are you doing the job that you're doing? So I said, well, refer to previous answer. I've got 4 kids, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no. You ought to be doing your boss's job. And that was such a shock. It was a very pleasant equivalent of a slap in the face with a wet fish. It was kind of like, where did that come from? So I was really gobsmacked by her faith, her observations, where on earth she had seen whatever I'd been doing that caused her to feel that I had potential. But just 2 years later, I was doing a job that was the equivalent of my boss's job. And from there, I became the OU's first non-academic associate dean, responsible for the regional centres across the country and quality and students. So that truly was an inspirational woman who opened doors to my mind that were then followed through with professional doors.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Just
She was brilliant.
Reshaping an outlook.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She was a tremendous person.
Gosh. And I suppose having 6 jobs over a relatively short period of time, it was 6, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. That must have given you a whole perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A massive, quick fire journey through what education at a higher education at a university level is about, what quality assurance is about, what student experience is about, what engagement is about, what working with partners is about. It was absolutely brilliant. If I'd been on a structured course for development of leadership in a higher education, I couldn't have had a better journey. It was phenomenal. And recently I have joined the council of the Open University, their board, and I feel as though my whole career has had closure because of that. I'm so thrilled to be back.
Great, fantastic. Okay, and what's going on with the Open University now? They used to be so visible, and I don't...
Well, the world, you know, when the OU started in the 70s, it was groundbreaking, and it opened doors to so many people who had not been able to access education because of their qualifications or their gender or their money pressures or whatever. And it just did that. We're in a different place now. Every university has to have widening participation, widening access in its plan, which is submitted to OFS. Every university, more or less, offers some form of distance learning. You know, the way we use virtual reality now in terms of our engagement with students and engagement with learning means that the Open University model is now everywhere. And so the OU has had to pivot its business model to ensure that it can continue to do the work that it does with many, many thousands of students who still find it to be the best distance learning offer. But it no longer is the only player in the game, and it's had to adjust to that, as it's done many times over its long and very, very reputable career.
Brilliant. Okay. And then when you left Open University, there was a series of positions across higher education for you.
Yes.
What were you chasing for those different roles? Yeah.
Well, so the first job that I went to from the OU was to be the director of student life at the University of Salford. And again, really inspirational character, Dr. Adrian Graves, who was my boss, who on my first day in the office threw a blank piece of paper at me and said, create for me a service that will be an exemplar for the sector. And it was at just the time that student fees were coming in. And so that whole notion of not that students have a favour done to them if they get a place at university, but that actually students are, whether you like the language or not, in some respects customers. They are paying money to receive an educational service. They're not paying money to get a degree, but they are paying money to learn. And therefore the notion of how a university engaged with its students and what it did for them, and the wraparound services that enabled them to be successful because they were investing, all of that was really coming to the fore in a way it never had done before. So Adrian Graves gave me the opportunity of creating an exemplary student services department, which I did, which we did at the university, and other universities from right across the piece, including both Exeter and Cardiff, subsequently visited, watched, learned, and then built their own, probably even better, student services directorates, but on the back of what we did at Salford, which I think was indeed groundbreaking at that time. And of course, that experience meant that my next role was as Chief Operating Officer at Goldsmiths, down here in London. And again, it was about taking a very research-intensive university into a place where students were actually the first foremost part of the business, and also putting it on a secure financial footing, and also making sure that Goldsmiths had the reputation and the marketing brand to be accessible to kids beyond London, which when I got there really didn't happen. So we forayed north and did all sorts of exciting things, and Goldsmiths was also wonderful. I loved my time there.
Yeah, wonderful. So it's unusual then, people kind of become higher education, universities. When did the idea of further education kind of come across?
Well, my last role in higher education was at UCLan, where I was Deputy Vice-Chancellor and then for a period of time the Acting Vice-Chancellor. And I suppose I looked back over my career and the different kinds of universities I'd been part of and thought, it's kind of time to say enough. I'm not a great fan of doing the same thing over and over and over. When you've kind of been around the treadmill, I think sometimes you need to say enough. And I felt that I was at an age where I probably had one last big career move in me before decided to wind it down a little bit. And I decided perhaps to be brave or perhaps to be foolish and look outside of higher education. And at just the point I was looking outside HE, the opportunity at NCG came up to be the chief executive, so not an academic lead but a business lead for 7 colleges, all in one college group. And the question that I was asked over and over again is, what is the point of NCG? What is the point of why would you have 7 colleges scattered across the country all under one leadership model? Which was a really good question. But over the nearly 6.5 years that I've been there, we have created one NCG, not me, my team, we together have created one NCG where the business of the college group happens only in the colleges because that's where the students are. But the thing that sticks us all together are the values, the culture, the learning opportunities, the development opportunities, and communities of really good practice, consistency of practice, high standards. So that's how over the last 6 years we've moved from requiring improvement in our quality and indeed in our finances through to an Ofsted inspection after COVID where we got good for our quality and we'd already got our finances well in order. And in the 2022 visit, our apprenticeships still lagged behind, so we still required improvement with apprentices. But when Ofsted came back in 2024, good across the board, and our financial health is very good. So it's been a journey, but all of those colleges have played a part. So there is a sense of one NCG, and what's our purpose? Well, we do social mobility really well in 7 different places, and we raise the aspirations of all of our learners in 7 different places. And we have a university centre, so we also deliver degrees. So we can really go that whole journey from retaking a GCSE to walking away with a degree. So yeah, there is a point to NCG, and it's been great getting there.
This episode is brought to you by Morgan Hunt, a public sector recruitment agency with over 30 years of experience. Whether you're looking for your next role or growing your team, we match purpose-driven people with organisations making a real difference. Visit morganhunt.com to find out how Morgan Hunt inspires working lives.
Superb. That's a phenomenal journey over that period of time, over 6 years. What were the biggest challenges, would you say, during that period?
So there was the challenge of the business, how to make it financially viable and how to make the pieces work together effectively and efficiently. And we worked on that, and it wasn't particularly painful and it wasn't particularly difficult.
Can I ask, does your finance background from many years ago help in those situations? I doubt very much that my training did, because I'm sure I've forgotten every single bit of it. But the experience of working through three universities, the traditional universities, all underwent significant financial challenge. And so I'd lived through those and worked through those change programmes. That experience, I think, was really, really important. Further education is funded in a very different way. It's primarily funded through government grants for 16 to 19 or adult funding. Apprenticeships is a different form of funding. There is engagement with local authorities for adult funding. So there's different funding models, but essentially you haven't got much control over the market or the market prices. So it's about doing things better. So for me, for NCG, it was about centralising services and doing it far more efficiently, far more cost effectively. But, you know, I talk about it's my team. I've got a brilliant finance director, really good chief estates and information officers. So our data and our real estate talk to each other. Our virtual estate, our real estate work together. But I've also got, you know, people who do a costed curriculum and understand where we should and shouldn't be delivering particular courses. Massive amounts of work into our people, our values, our culture, our development, our time out for CPD, all of that sort of stuff. And I've got a terrific quality director who watches
what's happening everywhere and make sure that what we're doing is consistently brought up to the highest standard. So the team working together has been the thing that's made the difference. But understanding the business and understanding the money is essential.
Okay. But it's no small task in terms of that volume of employees, staff members, pulling them together around a central vision.
Absolutely.
How do you do that? How do you get it going?
So we started it really by very shortly after I started, we moved to a new strategic plan, and work had been done by my predecessors to get that going. But it meant that I had a very easy jump to saying, right, we now engage with all staff and we engage with all students to say, is this plan looking about right? Is it, what have we missed and what language have we used that's not appropriate? And then a real concerted effort on the values piece. You know, why do we do the things that we do? What do we do in our behaviour that binds us together, and what kind of culture do we want both as a workplace and as a place of learning? And I think that's really the only glue that has real value, because if people behave appropriately and want to be part of a culture that supports a learning organisation, then actually doing things better, doing things more cost effectively, doing things in student outcome interests actually becomes a lot easier. For me, the development of the Leadership Hub was a physical thing that meant everybody was part of that learning organisation. So our Leadership Hub is open to everybody. It's not about if you're in a leadership position or if we think you've got potential for a leadership position. This Leadership Hub is about learning leadership behaviours, which you can apply at home, in the workplace, in your team, in your sports life, you know, whatever. It's about developing leadership behaviours. And if everybody develops leadership behaviours, then actually your whole organisation ticks differently. And twice a year we have leadership summits where the participants of the Leadership Hub come together, share the things that they've learned, but much more importantly, share the things that they now do differently because of their learning experience and because of working with colleagues from across 7 different colleges.
Brilliant. Okay. And through that, can they see a route forward in their own careers? And
without a doubt.
Yeah.
So I am really pleased that of our 7 colleges, 6 of the principals have come through an internal progression channel. Not, oh, that person's been marked out to be the next principal, but it's been fully competitive, it's been an external competition, and 6 out of 7 times internal candidates have taken the top job, which I think is a real testament to our expectation of being able to realise ambitions for people.
Brilliant, yeah. And it's great for the college as well, because the values, the culture just stays embedded.
That's
You're not
right.
trying to fit somebody else in.
That's right. And in fact, to be very, very fair, the one principal who came from outside was attracted to NCG because of our growing reputation as a place where you could develop, but you could do your own thing, but within this sort of protective space of one culture, one NCG. And he has fitted in brilliantly and is doing great stuff in one of our London colleges.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay, we've talked a little bit about challenges. Life seems harder now than ever before.
Oh, it is. What fresh hell today.
So when those things come flying through your office door, how do you respond to it, and what are those challenges looking like?
So the main challenges are, at the moment, about a really clear educational strategy. What is our new government actually wanting from the education sector? A massive challenge that is very, very real to me that does not go away is the disparity of respect that goes between higher and further education. So universities are seen as the place to go, the jobs to hold. Vice-chancellors' voices are loud and eloquent and listened to. And then there's colleges. You know, and actually, what does further education even mean? Further from what? Furthering you to where? So colleges are the also-rans. And it is my very firm view, and I feel I can say it because of my long history in higher education, that actually there should be complete parity of esteem. Not everybody will end up as a university professor. And how many of us, even in this office building, can't find a plumber? We need people who have a full range of skills, and colleges teach the applied learning that this country really needs at a time when we want so many million more houses, we want to be retrofitting green technology into our housing stock, we want to have doctors and nurses and dentists and dental technicians and physiotherapists. Those people don't necessarily come out of universities. No. So let's give parity of esteem to people who want to do practical applied learning with a defined outcome that we need as a country, and let's respect people who are academic, who love learning, who want to go to university and further that learning. But let's not say one is a pedigree and one is a mongrel, because they're not. They are different routes to getting to the place that you want to be. And we've got however 52 million people in this country or more. They have got 52 million different kinds of aspiration, and our education system should support all of them and recognise that a plumber is probably more valuable today than a professor of philosophy.
Yes. Yeah, it always strikes me as a recruiter that we can kind of see the skills that the workplace wants, and we've got a fair idea of what skills they're going to want in the future.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily what's pushed through our education establishments. Right. And we need to have some vision.
We do.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest challenges for us as a sector. Financially, further education always says that it doesn't have enough funding, and I think that is particularly fair for small independent colleges. Bishop Auckland College, Derwentside College, these are small colleges that serve local communities really, really well, but they're tiny, and during COVID they were so isolated, and they've always got financial pressures because the money follows the students, and if it's a year when there aren't so many young people coming in or older people looking for adult education, then their money shrinks, but their staff base doesn't necessarily shrink, so their costs go up. So money is always a challenge, and I think the other challenge that we have at the moment is within the sector itself. I still don't believe that enough people working in further education really believe that they are top-notch teachers, top-notch trainers, top-notch business people. And they are. I run an organisation with almost a £200 million turnover, 2,500 staff, operating across 7 colleges. That's a big, big role. And it's easily equivalent to running a university or running a business. People who run colleges are running 20 million, 60 million pound colleges. They are easily comparable to running a business. And yet there isn't that sort of, gosh, these are people running people industries, businesses, financial challenges. And I think as a sector, and you will know this from your business, I think we ought to be able to recruit people who see it as a cracking career opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And the challenges involved in it, and the different opportunities, and also the opportunity to leave a real mark.
Yes, absolutely.
In terms of create something and obviously see that ripple out over the future.
Absolutely.
In terms of all the students who pass through it.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. So a framework for coping with emergencies.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's right. So when those things come in, flying in on a Monday morning.
Yes.
How do you respond? Because everybody's looking at you, I guess.
Absolutely. So there are 2 ways of responding. The first one, and probably the most human one, is to close the office door and probably swear quite a lot. Get it out your system.
Never.
Possibly. Yeah. I've heard that other people do that. Couldn't possibly comment. But that's your number one strategy. Close the door, let all the fear or the fury or the, oh my good God, what next, out. And then when you reopen the office door, you know to present always, we can do this. Looks challenging, but we've faced bigger challenges. We pull together as a team. We sit down and formulate a plan. We use our networks to learn about what else is going on out there, because we're never on our own. And then with good humour, with positivity, we deal with the fresh hell. And I think probably one of the greatest weapons in our armoury that we very rarely give respect to is the use of humour. Because at the end of the day, it's always just a job, and it very rarely involves life. loss of life, risk to life. Mainly it's about money or buildings or floods or whatever, but usually it's going to be all right. It's just the getting there. And I think the use of humour and goodwill and keeping a team buoyed, and that team keeping those around them buoyed, I think is a very, very important tool in the box, as well as a calculator and a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. But we spend so much time at work. If we can't have fun, laugh and enjoy it, what's the point?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the working day is so much longer than the rest of the day. And the working week is a lot longer than the weekend.
Yeah.
So it should be, we all get that feeling, oh God, I've got to get up early. But actually, when you're in the office, in the college, in the classroom, you should be thinking, oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this. I'm really enjoying doing this. This is great. And I'll be sorry to actually close down at the end of the day because I've had a good day. That's a really good feeling.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, Liz. So just thinking about this career you've had and all the work that you're doing in terms of bringing the next generation of leaders through, if somebody's out there right now, maybe in their mid-30s, and they're thinking, look, I really fancy a crack at that, but I don't seem to see the route forward, or I don't get the advice I feel I need, what would you say to them now?
So I would relay the lesson that was taught to me by somebody who has remained a very, very good friend of mine. But she was indeed in her mid-30s when I was the Chief Operating Officer at Goldsmiths. I didn't know her at all. I got a knock on my door, or maybe an email, but a young woman presented herself to me and said, this is what I do. This is what I'm doing and have been doing for the last 15 years, because she'd been at Goldsmiths for a long time. But what I really want is your job. Can you help me get there? And I thought that was such a brave thing to do, because she didn't know me, and I could easily have sort of said, what, get out, what are you talking about? But I thought she was brave to do it, but I thought she was incredibly sensible to think, if I'm going to learn the things that I need to learn, I might as well ask the person who's been there. And so through dint of her own hard work and perseverance, I said to her, I will give you opportunities to do stuff with me and for me, but you can't give up your job because I haven't got a post for you. So you've got to do your own job and continue to do it well in a faculty, but I will give you opportunities to do stuff with me. And she just took that on the chin. And for 6 months, she did all kinds of things. And at the end of that 6 months, I knew I would be a fool not to give her a bigger opportunity. So a role was created. She stepped into it. She just developed what she did, how she did it. She expanded her learning. She was thirsty. She was like a sponge to learn stuff, to practice stuff, to get stuff wrong, say, well, that didn't work out, to get up and go. And when I had the really difficult job of telling her that I had another job and was going to leave Goldsmiths, because she and I were very close by then, I had her in and said, look, whatever, bad news, I've got another role and I'm going to be leaving Goldsmiths in 3 months. And she looked at me and almost went pale. And I thought, oh, what have I done? And she said, I can't believe what you've just told me, because I've been trying to work up to tell you I've got a Chief Operating Officer job and I'm also going to be leaving Goldsmiths in 3 months. And that was the best news. She had used the time that we'd been together at Goldsmiths to get my job somewhere else. And I just thought, wow, she is the success story of my life. And that's why we're still friends. I love watching. And she's now Registrar and Secretary of a major Russell Group university. She is a real phenomenon. And I think she's a working example of what somebody in their 30s can do if they've got now some bravery and just say, help me push the door open.
Right. That's so important, isn't it? Because sometimes I think ambition's almost pushed down.
Absolutely.
Sometimes. But this was an ambitious young person who said, help me.
Yeah, that's right. And was willing to work over and above. You know, you've got to show that you're willing to put the extra bit in for people to give you the extra bit that you need.
Yes, yeah. I also think it's worth pointing out, most of the leaders I know would love to have somebody have that conversation with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think
it's
some people are scared of it, but go for it and have the chat. Yes. brilliant. It's been wonderful hearing your story today.
Thank you.
What a fantastic contribution you've made.
Thank you.
The story continues to move forward, which is wonderful.
It does.
But thank you for coming in to see us today. And I'm sure many people will benefit from hearing your story.
Well, thank you so much for having the interest and giving me the opportunity to talk to you. It's been lovely. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you for listening to Inspiring Working Lives, the Morgan Hunt podcast, driving positive change and helping you to grow your career. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring conversation. For more insights, opportunities, and updates, head to morganhunt.com.